Joe Biden went off script today and accidentally revealed that he misled the American people on the Inflation Reduction Act. Karine Jean-Pierre snapped at Peter Doocy earlier this afternoon and accused him of having a Southern accent, and the Democrats have resurrected their dearly beloved boogeyman, Russia, Russia, Russia. But before we get into all of that, first we turn to Ro Khanna, a Democratic representative from California, who it just so happens to be a top Harris campaign surrogate. Well, he went on CNBC and slammed Kamala Harris's economic policies. Here's what that looked like.
Let me tell you why I don't think a blanket tax on unrealized gain is a good thing. I mean, let's say you're an entrepreneur. You create a company. It gets to 100 million or 200 million on paper. Now, if you're taxing that, you're probably going to force that person to sell it. They're probably going to sell it to private equity. Do you really want the entrepreneurs to be forced to sell their companies to larger institutions and to decline in value? I don't think that that's what you want for a startup ecosystem.
That would be the unintended consequence. Jeff Bezos wouldn't have to do that. They're going after these very, I think the whole policy is demagoguing to go after these people that they say pay less of a tax rate than their maid does, and they have billions of dollars.
I get why, but this is not the right way to do it. And also, 95% of investments in startups fail, and so you're going to disincentivize investments in those startups.
So to be clear, Kamala Harris is proposing a top federal capital gains tax rate of 33%. To put into perspective just how bad that is, China, which has one of the highest capital gains tax rates in the world, is set at 20%. And in Europe, the average across all their countries is 17.9%. So Kamala's proposal of 33% is well above both of those. But that's not all. Individual states also have taxes on capital gains. And when you combine those state taxes with the federal taxes, it's going to be as high as 40%. So that's double China's 20% and over double the average of European nations. Vivek Ramaswamy also went on CNBC and totally debunked and destroyed this idea.
Especially in the tech sector, you have people sitting on large, long-standing embedded capital gains. And so for people to understand what this means, it means you have to pay taxes on sales that you have not yet made. And even forget the stock market and think about even everyday Americans across this country. That means that if you're a farmer or if you're a small business owner, you will owe taxes with cash you literally do not have in your pocket to pay those taxes. That is a formula for a second Great Depression. And it is something that's been in the bloodstream of Democratic policy for a long time.
Yeah, Vivek is absolutely right. Unfortunately, this is nothing new for the Democrat Party. This idea, or a variation of this idea, was also proposed by Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, and yet the Democrats keep trying to sell the American people, the public, on this idea that Kamala Harris has somehow swung to the center, that somehow she's become more moderate. Well, if she is so moderate, why is she embracing ideas from the far left of the Democrat Party? I mean, Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren are nowhere near moderates. They are well known for being far left in their economic policies. And that's the thing. This would kill small businesses. This would kill startup companies. Taxing unrealized capital gains forces these businesses, especially startups, to pay taxes on gains that they haven't yet realized. How are they going to pay for that? And that's the thing. Valuations, especially of these startups, especially in tech, they go up and down, up and down. Why would you pay taxes on a valuation that could go down the next month? And in fact, many of these valuations are based on inflation. You know, the stock market right now is at record highs, and a lot of that is because the stock market is literally mirroring the higher cost of living. It's not that these businesses are fundamentally doing so much better. It's that these businesses are raking in more money because costs are higher. But Mark Cuban is trying to tell people that Kamala Harris isn't actually going to do this. Here's a headline. Mark Cuban says Harris won't tax unrealized capital gains. Not going to happen. Despite the fact that Harris herself and her campaign are saying that she's going to do this. And the reason he's saying that that's not going to happen is because he's had private conversations with Kamala and her team, and he believes what they're telling him versus what she's telling everyone else. And that's the issue. It's two-faced Democrat politicians. Well, all politicians on both sides are two-faced, but this is especially true in the era of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Here's what Mark Cuban had to say on, again, CNBC.
Well, of course, but okay. So what I told him was, if you tax unrealized gains, you're going to kill the stock market, right? And it's going to be the ultimate employment plan for private equity, because companies are not going to go public because you can get whipsawed, right? I mean, my own personal experience back from the internet days, right? All of a sudden, I was cash poor, but equity rich, right? My net worth was enormous, but the number of dollars in the bank wasn't enormous. And so I'd have, based off of the unrealized gains, I would have had to borrow money, and I effectively would have been in hock just to pay my tax bill instead of trying to run my company, and 1,000 other reasons, right? So they realize that's the issue. I can't repeat it enough. Even though she's not directly conflicting the Biden tax plan, to her value proposition is we need to tax everybody fairly.
So he is citing her value proposition as why he trusts her. And again, those private conversations that he's had with her and her team. But if you actually listen to what he says there, he is mirroring, he is affirming what both Ro Khanna and Vivek Ramaswamy said. He is not differing at all on how disastrous this would be, not only for startup companies, not only for small businesses and big businesses, by the way, but how destructive this would be for the entire U.S. economy. So that is Mark Cuban not disagreeing at all with what Ro Khanna and Vivek Ramaswamy are warning about. But then he reveals here that he only trusts her because of these private conversations that they've had.
As you've said yourself, you can't speak for the vice president. These are things they're telling you. Who knows what they're telling other people? My guess is they're telling anybody who's donating to them exactly what they want to hear at this point. What matters is what they say publicly and what they will stick to.
No, absolutely, positively not.
That was a lot of no's.
Let me just be very clear.
I don't know, like, why do you think that they're telling you the truth and not telling other people other things?
Well,
if they won't say it publicly, say it publicly. Tell all of us so that we can hold you to it.
I get it, but you've got to get the details right. You can't just...
Yeah, but we have 60 days till an election. Like, you're asking people to take a flyer.
Even if it's the day before the election, right? Even if it's the day before. Look, the next question is, the second thing I was going to mention earlier.
I just don't want everybody to trade on what we think and what we feel and what we think may happen.
Exactly.
Just tell us.
I get your point exactly, right?
He gets her point, but he doesn't agree because Mark Cuban has Trump derangement syndrome and he only wants Kamala Harris to win. But the Biden-Harris administration have this terrible habit and terrible pattern of selling one thing to the American people, and then it turns out to be completely false. It turns out to be a misdirect. And that's exactly what happened with the Inflation Reduction Act. So they passed the Inflation Reduction Act, and the point, based on the name, was to reduce inflation. Well, Republican critics from the very beginning were saying that, no, this is actually the Green New Deal in disguise. This is actually the Democrats trying to pull the wool over the American people's eyes. They've essentially mislabeled it, misnamed it. And, the commentators and media outlets all claimed that Republicans were just manufacturing this drama, that Republicans were playing politics. Well, Joe Biden went off script earlier today, and he confirmed that that's exactly what the Democrats did. They intentionally misnamed the Green New Deal so that they could pass their so-called Inflation Reduction Act. Take a look at this.
My investments, through my investments, the most significant climate change law ever, and by the way, it is a $369 billion bill. It's called the, we should have named it what it was, but at any rate.
They named it the Inflation Reduction Act, so that gives the impression that it was trying to, reduce inflation, but that wasn't true. This is, they're trying to reduce carbon emissions. They're trying to make things, more sustainable in election, which is cool. I'm all for sustainability and reducing pollution. I get that, but at least be honest. That's the whole thing, right? We just want transparency in government. We want honesty from our political leaders. If you're going to pass the Green New Deal, then say that that's what you're doing. Or if you're trying to reduce carbon emissions, then say that that's what you're doing. Don't gaslight the American people and say, we're passing this to, lower your cost of living when you know that that's not what it's going to do. And there you have it. He went off script. Maybe that's why, they took him off, because they know he's old enough and can't stick to the script. But it's not just him who is unable to stick to the script. Karine Jean-Pierre, White House press secretary, apparently was upset by Peter Doocy's question earlier this week about Kamala's fake accent. And again, the issue here isn't whether or not she used a Southern accent. The issue is whether or not she's trying to pander to voters, whether or not she is misrepresenting herself to the people in order to try to bamboozle them for their votes. Well, Karine Jean-Pierre snapped back, had a quick clap back at Peter Doocy earlier this afternoon. Here's what that looked like.
Okay, Peter.
Thank you. President Biden's approval rating is soaring. It's up 13% all the way to 48%. Does it bother the president that people are so pleased that he is retiring?
Am I hearing a little twang in your voice, Peter? A little something in your...
I know better. No, but, you know, you guys keep telling us to appreciate him on the way out about the Inflation Reduction Act and things like that.
I'm glad that you listen to me when I'm up here. Look, here's what I can say. I think what the American people appreciate is indeed what we have been able to do in the past several years. When you think about
Okay, what do you think about that? Did you hear a twang in his voice? Because I rewatched that about 3 or 4 times, and again, I was raised in the South. So I'm very familiar with the Southern accent, and I did not hear even not even like 3%, 5% bit of twang. He sounds like, I don't know where he's from, but I also was, raised somewhat in the Northeast. I would guess that he's from the Northeast, just based on his baseline level of speaking. What do you guys think? Did you hear a twang in his voice? Let me know in the comments below. Last but not least, Kamala Harris is actually doing bad in the polls, and in either my next video or the video after that, I'm going to talk more about the polls because they're looking really bad for Kamala Harris. But that even the establishment knows she's doing bad when they've resurrected their Russia boogeyman. Here is from the official FBI X account, knock it off, says FBI Director Christopher Wray to foreign adversaries meddling in American democracy. And here you have his words, knock it off, on this infographic, which, is super convincing. 2 things. Number one, I thought they told us that it was impossible to rig our elections, right? We're supposed to trust that our elections are secure. So what exactly is he trying to encourage them to knock off? Is it the misinformation, quote unquote, that is being spread? A lot of times, and the reason I say misinformation is because anything that goes against their established narrative, they label misinformation. And that leads me to the next point. As you've probably seen, a few online influencers, especially big wigs here on YouTube, like Tim Pool, the Benny Johnson Show, I think Lauren Chen was involved, are accused of being somehow connected or taking money from Russia, right, to spread misinformation. But it's all just projection, because why is the media talking about that? Why is the Department of Justice talking about that? Why is this just now coming out when, on the other hand, you literally have Democrats who have aides in their offices? For example, the current governor of New York and the previous governor of New York, Hochul and Cuomo. Their aides are now confirmed to be Chinese spies. So it's funny because there have been, how many at this point? Over a dozen, 2 dozen Chinese spies who have been arrested or charged with espionage within the Democrat Party. And these aren't just like low-level staffers. These are people high up in the Democrat establishment who are now confirmed to have ties to China, to have been spying for China, trying to interfere with U.S. Government. And now now the DOJ is just revealing all of a sudden, just a few weeks before the election, that a few influencers, from what I understand, they didn't even take money from Russia directly. They were misled by someone to accept this money from a startup company. And they were, if you look at the indictment itself, at the charges, the person trying to trick them actually created a fake name. So they actually were victims in this whole scheme. But, they're turning all of our attention to that and distracting from the actual Chinese espionage that is connected to our Democrat politicians and Democrat leaders. But of course, all of this is just my analysis, just my opinion, and I would love to know yours in the comments below. covered a lot of topics. Let me know what you guys think about any one of them. I always love hearing what you guys have to read. If you haven't already, please be sure to give me a thumbs up. I know it's a simple thing to ask, but it really does help me in the algorithm to reach more viewers like you. Be sure to smash that subscribe button and to check out one of these videos.